Hi, this is Bill Riley with Riley Private Client. Well, we've come to the end of another month, April the 30th, and I can tell you we've had a very interesting week in the markets and in politics. So what I want to do is touch on a few of those, give a little bit of what my concerns are, and then I'm writing another blog to get out. It'll probably come out Monday or Tuesday. That'll go in a little bit more in depth. One of the things we've seen this week is tremendous earnings. I mean, we've had some of the big companies, the big players, especially in the tech and the rebounding of the economy. They've just come across with what I consider some of the best earnings I've seen in a long time. One of the problems is that when you get a market this high, even though you have great earnings, there's always a little bit of a pullback because guys are taking profits, or the portfolio managers are. But everything I see looks very, very positive. I can't find any part of the markets that I feel uneasy about, except, and let's go into that. Biden's speech Wednesday night was interesting. We have never had, first of all, talking about taxes, that's the questions I get. In fact, I just did a quick survey for FA Magazine, and one of the things they kicked back to us is 56% of the questions that we're getting from our clients is, what are we going to do about the capital gains taxes? Well, let me explain a little bit to you. That does not affect everybody. In fact, it'll only probably affect about 3 to 5% of the investing public, and that's because you have to make over $1 million for it to affect you. And I've already had calls because we have some pretty good capital gains since the pandemic ended or turned around. And people are very concerned, what's that going to do? Will I have to pay 43% in taxes? And I said, no, that is not you. That is not going to affect you. But if you make over $1 million a year, be sure and call me so we can talk about it. But one of the things we've seen with politicians, especially the old line politicians that have been around a while, is they have this tact of saying, let's ask for a lot more than we'll think we'll ever get, and then that way it gives us negotiating power. And especially on the Democratic side, that's the way they play the game. Whether or not this capital gains will go through, I have my real reservations about it. I just don't think it will. Because we've never had in our tax code where capital gains are higher than personal income. That just it's not happened. So I don't really know what he's trying to get to or what the far left is trying to do. But Cooperman was on this morning, one of the old hedge fund guys, and he's kind of in the middle of this thing. And when you listen to him talk, he's a very sharp guy. And he goes, this just doesn't make sense. You're telling me that if I make over $1 million a year and I have embedded capital gains, that when I sell them, then I have to pay, because I live in New York, almost 55% tax. Well, let's think about it. I'm not going to sell them. I mean, why should I? And give away 55%. So there's a lot of discussion, but it sounds good. What this does for a politician like Biden is it makes everybody kind of, oh, wow, look what he's doing. Some people will say, oh, good, they're going to, tax the rich. But then when you get to looking at it, you'll say, but there's not that many rich people. There's only 500 people in the United States that qualify, okay? And believe me, they've got enough CPAs and attorneys and people like me that figure out how to get around it. Second of all, the big problem is this funding and the stimulus bills and everything we have. By the time, if Biden gets everything he wants, we'll have $6 trillion going into the economy over the next few years. But that also increases the debt dramatically. Now, I still have this fear of what the debt's going to look like 2 or 3 years from now. I think the market's in great shape here. We're going to have a really, really good market. But there'll be a point to where there'll be what I call the tipping point. Great thing about right now is we have very low interest rates. So we can go out and borrow money, or print money really is what the Fed does. The Fed does not borrow money, they print money at these low interest rates, and it works. But just think about it. If the 10-year Treasury, with the normal yield on the 10-year Treasury over the last 10 years has been somewhere around 3%, We're at 1.65. Think about it like this. If you had a variable rate mortgage and your interest rate increased that much, remember that's almost doubling. That's going to be a hard thing to handle when you're trying to retire the debt. The only way to do it is you print more dollars. But like anything else, the more you have of something, the less it's worth. And I had a question the other day, what do you think of what the dollar is going to do? Usually I don't worry about things like that, but now we're starting to see parts of it that I may be a little concerned because we have some problems. Inflation's back. In fact, I haven't bought commodities in 8 years, and I'm starting to add them to portfolios. Because what I'm seeing, and what's interesting, is that we're seeing this underground inflation that nobody wants to admit. Well, if we get inflation, we have a lower purchasing of the dollar, or value on the dollar. We've got a double whammy going here. And that can cause some direct problems because the only way out of it is to increase rates and increase taxes. I'll kind of finish with this. Clinton did something that was very unique. In his administration, he lowered the capital gains to 20%. The economy boomed. It's one of the best we've had in a while. Now we're seeing it again, and now we have a guy that wants to increase the capital gains. There's no rationale for this. If it's only affecting maybe 500 people in the United States, what good is that? It's not. Now, he's also said he's not going to tax anybody that has under 400, makes less than 400,000. Well, we've heard that story before, and that'll probably trickle down too. So the problem is that he's looking out, or his economists are telling him that you need to warn people because the amount of money that we're stimulating the economy with is building at a very rapid rate. And at some point in time, we've got to address the fact that that's on borrowed money. And somehow we have to pay it back. So I'll leave it with that. I'll go in a little bit more depth. I'm also going to talk about the returns on the market and how over time people get caught up in these fantastic returns we have, and they're not real. They're real for the time now, but not real long term. And that's something you have to start thinking about. So thank you very much for watching this. I hope you can pass this around to other people or share it. I think that the comments I've had, that people are telling me, boy, this is good stuff, and I hope it is. I'm trying to simplify what's really going on. And we'll just kind of get through this. But for right now, there's no place else to go with equities. Thank you again very much, and have a good weekend. Bill Riley.